Hello. So the original pattern that I had gone with was the traditional Russian pattern. And in this pattern, there are large amounts of organic elements and asymmetrical forms that are flowing throughout. And I wanted to bring that out in the pattern design that I was creating. And I also wanted to challenge myself to do this pattern because it was getting me away from the symmetrical and geometrical forms I was looking for originally in the patterns that I was researching. And I was very drawn to the use of color in this pattern, which inspired me to have that organic element flowing throughout the pattern, which is in this vine that is sort of leading your eye to the centerpiece, which is the flower. And through the use of the different line weights and color, I was able to create a dynamic in the pattern design, which had led the audience to the centerpiece without them even knowing. And I used a black and gray background because I wanted to bring out the upper and the lower part of the color a bit more, because when it was just a white background, the pattern almost looked washed out. In my relief model, I had used the flow that you were seeing from the vine that led your eye to the centerpiece as a way of, I interpreted it in a way that I wanted to make the model look like it was growing up and down in the different heights of the walls that I was trying to create, and the use of columns as well. So in the two images below, at the very bottom of all of these images, you can see that I created like diagonals in the walls, which brought out that growing element that I was trying to achieve, essentially. And the columns also brought out those little details without having to make very intricate cutouts. I was able to bring it out and simplify it in a way. But I knew in a place model, this is how it looks like as the final. I knew in a place model that ground at the very front, where all those like walls are going up and down, would be too complicated and too complex for a person to actually walk through. So when I went out with my draft, I still included those ascending and descending walls, and I had also included those petal-like form columns that I had. But now that I look at it, and when I was making my final place model, I realized that it's too tight for a person to actually get through, and they wouldn't be able to experience this space and it was getting in the way. So I needed to figure out a way to include those elements without them being on the ground. So, as well as that chandelier piece that you see hanging on that bamboo skewer, I needed to be able to include that with the ceiling without it having to be interrupted by this bamboo skewer in the middle of the space. So in my final model, I had used patterning on the walls to bring out those petal-like forms that I had originally on the ground. So they were still included, as well as in the ceiling, I had those cutouts. And essentially what I wanted it to do was have light shine through, and those forms would be able to pop up on the ground. And when the person was walking through the space, they would be able to see it and experience, and it helps them lead them to the focal point, which is that flower centerpiece after this walkway. And then once you get there, you look up and there's the chandelier that represents the flower on the floor as well. So all of these elements have been working together, and in my floor plan, it was very simplified from the pattern design that I had gone with, but I still was able to keep a lot of those elements just in different ways. And I think that's fine with how I interpreted it. And then I took a cut from the front because I wanted to show those ascending and descending walls I was talking about from the grid leaf model and putting it in my place model as well. And I just wanted to show the different heights that I was using, the variety in the walls. And then I took a cut from the side view because I wanted to also show how I was still using the variety in heights in that centerpiece in the flower at the closer to the right. And yeah, that is my final place model. Thank you.